And will you introduce me, Carla, or
Yes.
should I just go? Okay.
Yes, I will. I will. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Just to make sure you are in the right Zoom, this is a Zoom from CalSOAP, the California Student Opportunity and Access Program. And we are really honored to have two local university systems here with us. We have San Diego State University representing the CSU, and we have UC San Diego representing the University of California system. Because they both have applications open now, and there are many 12th graders who are trying to fill out those applications and figure it all out. We are going to have a little bit of an admissions and application overview from these two universities. Although you'll notice that you won't be able to post into the chat. If we post something in there like a link, you should be able to click on it or save it or download a document, that type of thing. But there is a Q&A, and the Q&A is where we're going to ask you to put your questions, and we will do our best to answer them. The first question I usually get, and the most common one, is, can we get a recording of this? And yes, you can. You'll notice it is recording, and starting tomorrow, we're going to put it on the CalSOAP website. So at calsoapsandiego.org, there's a webinars and blog section, and we will convert it to a YouTube video and post it there so anyone can watch it at any time on demand, and you can fast forward and pause and do whatever you'd like. And if we have slide decks, we will also post them on the CalSOAP San Diego website as well. And I also want to give you a little bit of the breakdown of today. We're planning to have CSU go first. So San Diego State will be presenting for about the first half from about 6 to 6:45. And then UC San Diego will be presenting for the second half from about 6:45 to 7:30. So I'm Carla. I'm just going to be hovering in the background, helping with the Q&A and helping with any questions you might have. And also you can email me afterwards. I'll drop my email in the chat, and you also probably got Zoom email reminders from me about the webinar. But feel free to email me anytime after this as well. And so I'm going to just go ahead and introduce our first guest speaker, and that is Matthew Hebert. He is a Director of Admissions at San Diego State University, and we are really lucky to have him. I will have him go ahead and introduce himself and his team and take it away.
Great. Thank you, Carla. Honored to be here tonight with everybody and really speak on behalf of the California State University system. My name, again, is Matthew Hebert, and I'm Director of Student Recruitment and School Relations at San Diego State. And I do have two of our admission counselors here with me today, Timnit and Chiman, and we will be answering questions for you as we go. So please put any questions in the Q&A, and I will also make this presentation. You will have the recording, but I'll also make this presentation available to you too. Okay, so let's talk about the California State University. And I want to cover some basics about the CSU, and then we're going to jump into application questions and frequent questions there, and then talk a little bit about San Diego State in particular. But we have 23 wonderful CSU campuses located all across the state of California. So everywhere from, of course, San Diego State down here in the south up to Humboldt, and everywhere in between. So we have a lot of variety in our campuses. What we all really have in common is that we are focused on practical-based hands-on learning. So we have great programs at all of our campuses and a lot of involvement with our students and faculty doing research, doing a lot of activities so that you're learning not just in the classroom, but out in the field as well. We have nearly 500,000 students who attend the California State University system at one of our 23 campuses. So we are very large. We're actually the largest institution of four-year learning in the United States. So the largest system. We have also over half of our students are first in their family to earn a bachelor's degree. And overall in the state and in the system, we have a 91% acceptance rate for first-year students and 87% for transfer students. This doesn't mean at each of our campuses we have that, but overall across the board in the state of California. We also have the vast majority of our students who receive some type of financial aid by filing the financial aid forms when they're available. More than 50% of our undergraduates leave with zero loan debt, and we are ranked in the top 10 for economic mobility in our students. And really, another thing that sets us apart is we are very social campuses. We really focus on our students' well-being, psychological health, mental health, but also looking at student government and clubs and sports and getting you involved as a social network. So yes, you are here for the classroom and for school, but we also are very, very social campuses where you can find things to do, always joining groups and clubs, and just to make sure that you're meeting friends and you are connected. So as staff and faculty, that is one of our primary goals as the CSU, to make you feel at home at our campuses. Some really cool facts that we found here. 1 in every 20 Americans who has a bachelor's degree earned it at the California State University system. 1 in 10 California employees with a bachelor's degree came from the CSU. Our CSU alumni network is larger than the population of 23 different states in the US. It's crazy. 1 in 20 teachers nationally are from the CSU. We do emphasize teaching. We emphasize a lot of programs that deal with management of things. So business management, also city planning, city management, criminal justice administration. But those are just to name a few. We have great STEM programs, biotech. Some of our campuses have great agriculture programs as well. And then the social sciences and the performing arts. Each of our campuses are very unique in what we have to offer, and there's a lot of variety. So some of our campuses have dairy science, fire protection administration and forestry, forensic science, architecture, aviation, just to name a few, hotel, restaurant management, casino operations, a lot of variety at the different campuses, but so many programs that we have to offer. Now, this is the primary website that we use. You'll see the URL in here, and this is calstate.edu, which really is a one-stop shop for all of your Cal State needs. You can do so much on this website. Yes, you're going to apply this way, but you can even start your search looking at different campuses. Maybe you have a program in mind that you already know that you're going to pursue, and you can do different searches to see what campuses in the state offer those programs for you. So this is a great link for you here to do different searches and see the different campuses and what we all have to offer. And I will say this, we also have a lot of variety for just population numbers too, and where we're located. So down here, in San Diego, we're in the eastern part of the city of San Diego. We have campuses, however, in the CSU system that are in very rural settings. We have campuses with over 30,000 students and campuses with 2,500 students. Also campuses with about 10,000 students. So it's so much different variety. But we all take the application the same exact way and in the same exact months. So October 1 through November 30th, yes, ongoing right now, that is the open window where any student can apply into the California State University system. Doesn't matter if you're applying to one campus or all 23 campuses, it's one application for all of us. Now, my recommendation is, although the application is open right now, we want to make sure that you are truly prepared to apply so that you have your transcripts, so that you have all the documents on hand in order to successfully apply to our campuses. So what do you really need? Well, most of our campuses are not going to ask for you to send a transcript to us by mail or by electronic service right away. Instead, we want you to fill out the application and get transcripts for yourself, so then you can use those transcripts to report your classes and your grades appropriately. So contact your school, get an unofficial transcript. We're going to talk in just a little bit about what the A through G courses are and all those subjects that we look at as the CSU, but very important for you to get your transcripts and enter into each of our different areas there. You also will need your social security number if you have one. That's very important to link your application for admission up to financial aid documents once you do financial aid. So those two have to match. Also, your citizenship status, parent and guardian citizenship status, household annual income, and method of payment. And then on the right-hand side here, you can see for test scores for SAT and ACTs, none of our campuses will use it for admission requirements. There are still spaces on the application for you to enter your SATs or ACTs, though, and sometimes we'll use that just for course placement. But for admission purposes, it's not a benefit, nor is it a detriment if you report your SATs or ACTs. So we are all test blind like that. We do not require them, nor will we look at them for admissions. Once you log in and create an account on the Cal State website for Cal State Apply, this really is the first screen that you'll see that in your extended profile that will dictate what other screens are going to open for you on the application. If you are a senior in high school and applying as a first-year college student, then you're going to click on your first bachelor's degree and that you're a graduating high school student. We also, however, want to ask if you've already had college units either in progress or completed, and there's a space there where you can answer that, also a space to indicate whether or not you're an international student. The next screen that you'll encounter is asking you which campuses and which programs, or programs are synonymous with majors, which ones you're interested in. So you're going to be doing this all at the same time, no matter what campus you're interested in. You're going to do this application, and at this stage, at the very beginning, indicate what schools you are interested in, what programs you're interested in. Now, I will answer a question that we usually get right away, is that what if you submit the application and then you want to go back? Well, you can't go back and actually make edits to all your classes, but you can add additional programs in additional campuses when you're ready to do that, as long as it's done by November 30th. I really don't like students to wait until the last minute. Yes, you can apply right up until 11:59 p.m. on November 30th, but sometimes if there's a lot of traffic, the systems are going to crash. So give yourself plenty of time to, one, be prepared to apply, but then don't wait until the last minute. So on this screen, you can add your programs, or again, majors, and you can see the whole list of the different programs that are offered for each of the different California State universities. You can do a search function and look at one or all 23 campuses if you'd like to. Once you complete all of that extended profile information, then you'll see this quadrant come up, and that's really the meat and potatoes of our application. There are 4 sections, and we're going to ask you for individual personal information, for your academic history, for supporting information, and then any additional program materials that you may need. In the personal information section, one of the most important screens is about residency and citizenship. So answer this correctly as far as if you are a citizen or green card holder. But if you are an AB 540 student, so you are undocumented, we advise you to still, in order to be eligible for AB 540 and be granted California fees, we do suggest that you choose none for your value as far as if you're a U.S. citizen, but in the residency section, still answer it to say, yes, you are a California resident. The campuses that you apply to will then follow up with you and see if you are eligible for AB 540. And AB 540 grants undocumented students an exemption from having to pay non-resident fees. Since we are state universities in the state of California, there is a tuition cost for residents and a separate tuition cost, which can be upwards of about $11,000 extra if you are a non-resident from another state or international. Also very important is parent and guardian information. We use the information here really to make sure and see whether or not you are eligible for a campus fee waiver. Now, that's an important point because this application for us, for the Cal State system, it's a $70 charge for each application that you send in. Meaning that if you're applying to just one CSU, it's a $70 charge, 2 CSUs, it's $140, and so on. But we do have fee waivers. And how do we determine if you're eligible for a fee waiver? It is based on the information that you are reporting in this screen and some of the prior screens for California residency and for how much your household income has and how many students or family members you have in that household. Here's a screen that will come up. This is actually an example after our applicant here had completed all sections of the application, did all the entries, and then at the very top, it's telling the student applications ready for submission and the total fees. The fee waiver status itself, when you click on it, and it's highlighted in red here, will tell you automatically at this stage whether or not you're eligible for a fee waiver or ineligible. If you're not eligible, you will have to pay that $70 fee for each application that you're submitting at this time. If you are eligible, then you have up to 4 universities, 4 of our campuses that you can submit your application to. So if you get a fee waiver and you're just interested in maybe 2 of the CSUs, it's completely free to send your application to 2 additional CSU campuses. So I strongly advise that you do that. In our course entry quadrant here for academic history, you are going to be typing in your high school, where you've been. If you've been to more than 1 high school, our application does allow you to enter that in. And we're literally asking you to get a hold of your transcripts and then enter it in as you see it in each of the years that you have. So in 9th grade and 10th grade and 11th grade and 12th grade, you're entering in the courses that were taken at those high schools. The system is very smart in that it recognizes even what classes are offered at your high school, and a lot of it will auto-fill for you. But you need to make sure that you're indicating all of your classes correctly and you're indicating your grades. Also, as far as the grades, one of the common mistakes that we see is that students do not enter their 12th grade classes because 12th grade, you haven't completed your semesters yet. So you may have in-progress grades or planned grades throughout the senior year, and that's completely fine. Everybody does, but you still need to indicate and list all of those classes for the entirety of 12th grade, and then indicate that the classes are in progress or planned. That is very important because on one of the screens, you'll see this total. This is our A through G subject total. The A through G courses are required for admission to any of the CSU campuses. It's our minimum requirement. And we need to ensure that you have at least, say, 4 years of English, at least 3 years of mathematics, etc. If this screen shows that you're deficient in any of those categories, then your application, once you submit it in, may be denied because you're not meeting minimum eligibility requirements. Sometimes we have students with international coursework, or if you've gone to school in another state, and sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult entering in and having to manually enter in your classes, and this doesn't automatically update for you. So you need to make sure on this screen, you are attributing and matching each of the classes that you've entered in into these specific categories. And I really can't stress this enough because this is another common mistake that students make, is that even though you've entered in all of your classes, on this A through G matching screen, you are not verifying that you are meeting your A through G courses. And a lot of times the A through G courses are really just what you need in order to graduate from a California high school. But you must triple and double check that this is accurate. Some good do's and don'ts, other tips that I have for the application. Make sure you visit the dates and deadlines page to see what programs are available. We close on November 30th, as I mentioned. However, when it comes to it at that time, there may be some CSU campuses that will extend their deadline. At San Diego State, we're not anticipating that. At many of the Cal States, they probably will not, but it may be a possibility. Don't start your application late. Don't start it on November 30th and get it done on that one day. So make sure you start early, and you can start it now and not submit it for another couple weeks. Come back to it once you have your transcripts, etc. But make sure that you don't do it late. In your extended profile, there are great tutorials, a great chat function to make sure that you have all your questions answered. There's a great help center here. Sometimes students answer these preliminary questions incorrectly, and it really shapes the rest of your application. And you need to be checking your email all the time. So don't complete your Cal State Apply application with an email address that you really don't use or check. Look at the freshman application guide. We have that online for you. Don't try to enter in your courses by memory. It never works. Make sure you do your fee waiver checklist to see if you're eligible. Don't leave out your in-progress or 12th grade classes. And make sure that you review your application carefully. Many of our campuses do not allow corrections. After you submit the application, some of our campuses, many of us, will not allow you to make it a correction to it. So you need to make sure that you enter it all carefully. Once you submit the application, your application will go to the university that you've submitted it for. At that point, then, you need to contact that admissions office for any questions particular to that campus to which you've applied. So corrections are a very big deal. Make sure it's all complete before you actually submit it. We also will just ask you to enter in the A through G courses, not to enter in classes that may not be falling in the A through G category, just A through G. On this screen, these are our minimum eligibility requirements into the California State University system. Some of our campuses are going to be more competitive than a 2.5 GPA. We'll talk about that in just one second. But for minimum sake, state guidelines for minimum entrance, minimum requirements that you need to have to be eligible into the entire CSU system. You need to be on track to graduate in the spring. You need to complete all of the A through G courses, and you need to have at least a 2.5 GPA in those courses. If you have below that, your campus of choice may contact you to evaluate you based on other supplemental factors. And as I mentioned, some of the campuses may have a higher GPA that they are looking at for their threshold. A little bit more about A through G. Some things I want to point out here. Mathematics, 3 years is the requirement. 4 years is recommended, however, and some of our campuses will give you more of a benefit if you have more math rather than just the 3 years. 3 years really starts with algebra. So the clock starts ticking once you take algebra, geometry, intermediate algebra, or IM math, math 1, 2, and 3. Those are your 3 years. Above that is defined as a 4th year. And even above that is a 5th year. And we have students all the time who have so many math courses that they're meeting 5 years of it. Also, I want to point out that language other than English is a proficiency requirement. So if you advanced right to the 2nd year of Spanish, for example, that's fine. You've met the 2-year requirement. Also, if you are a native speaker and your high school is putting that on your transcript and they have exempted you from having to take a foreign language, then we would accept that as well. And then lastly, your visual performing arts must be in the same discipline. So it's a year requirement, but you need to have 1 year of dance or 1 year of music, 1 year of theater or visual arts. It can't be half a year of dance and half a year of theater. They're different disciplines within the visual performing arts. And then California electives, really anything that falls into our elective category or anything really above and beyond these minimum requirements would work for an elective as well. You may hear this word impaction, and impaction really means in the state university system that a campus receives more applications than spaces than we can provide. So the minimum requirements, just backtracking a little bit here to this 2.5 GPA, if the campus you're applying to is impacted, then you know you're going to need to meet a higher GPA. You may not know what those minimums are. For San Diego State, for example, We don't have a minimum GPA requirement. We look at as high as possible, but we don't have a cutoff that would say you're not eligible if you have, say, a 3.4 or 3.3 or what have you. It's to be determined based on the strength of our applicant pool. So impaction really has an impact on the campuses because we receive so many applications, we cannot admit our students just based on the minimums. So we look for some other things. Here are the campuses on the right that are impacted. So we have quite a few. We have 7 campuses here that are impacted. We look at Fullerton, Long Beach, LA, San Diego, San Jose State, and then 2 of our Cal Polys, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and Cal Poly Pomona. At the other campuses, these are the non-impacted campuses at the CSU. So we have 16 campuses that are not impacted. Based on the impaction, that means for most of their programs, a 2.5 GPA will be the minimum and perhaps what you need in order to be admitted to these campuses. Keep in mind, however, that impaction works at the major level as well. So although a campus, say East Bay, for example, may not be impacted overall with applications, if you are applying to a very popular major, that major may be impacted at that campus. The best example I use is nursing. So at all of our campuses, nursing is competitive, some more so than others. But if you're applying to be a nurse, just know that it is impacted. And so then it isn't just going to be a 2.5 GPA that you need to meet for a minimum. Our nursing programs are looking for very competitive students who are doing well in math and sciences to prepare you for nursing school. So this is, again, what a great way and a good option for you is looking at all of our different campuses, all of the different degrees that are offered with the search functions in the Cal State website. So that's calstate.edu, and our staff will put in some links for you in the chat and Q&A. So keep that in mind as you're applying. There's a lot of variety. There's a lot of great programs, and some programs are offered at some Cal States and not at others. So for impacted campuses, what else are we looking for? Well, you'll see that we're pretty unique in the state and perhaps in the country, in that the CSU system is not requiring an essay from you. It does if you were applying to the EOP program, which I'll get into in a second. But we don't require letters of recommendation, nor do we require essays. We also, at most of our campuses, will not review extracurricular activities for admission purposes. That goes a great long way for scholarships and the financial piece to this. But for admission purposes, the primary factors are really your GPA and then your A through G courses. And by a primary factor, I mean in your A through G courses, having more rather than just the minimums. So some campuses will look at, yes, you've got a great GPA, but have you taken that 4th year of math? Let's say you are ready to be an aerospace engineer. Well, at our campuses, you're going to have to take college level calculus. So we want to see ahead of time that you are doing well in your math courses and that you are advancing beyond just Algebra 2. So that's very important, is that the impacted campuses will look at not just the GPA, but will look at the entirety of your academic record and see what you've done for advanced A through G courses. We also have some other things that we'll look at too. The location of your high school, if you're on free and reduced lunch or foster youth or military service, first generation, all these things, we'll ask you questions on the Cal State Apply, the application. And then each of our different campuses may weigh those factors a little bit differently. You'll see also on here, activities and engagement. Yes, there's a little section to put that in there. How many hours you have for work, for example, or community service. And so some campuses may look at that as well. So for academic preparation, English course for your senior year and math in your senior year, those are our advice. if you've already completed your 4-year English requirement, you don't need to take English in the senior year, but we advise you to. Also, if you've already completed your 3 years of math, you don't need to take it in your senior year, but we advise you to. And the reason why is because we see success rates and better graduation rates from our campuses from students who are truly prepared and not having a gap year in these essential skills of English and mathematics. Here's our section where we will ask you if you're part of educational programs. Are you participating in AVID, in Upward Bound, in Talent Search, Puente, or MESA, or any other college preparation programs? We want you to answer yes here, and that may have an impact on your admission. Your work information or extracurriculars, if you have them, list how many hours and list yes. At some campuses, that may be taken into consideration. And then all of our campuses have an EOP program, or Educational Opportunity Program. So this is a great program that we offer throughout the state with priority admission for first-generation students. California residents or even AB 540 students being considered a resident as such, you are eligible. You need to demonstrate high financial need, and we determine that based on financial aid. This is located in the supporting information section of your application. When you click on that, you can fill out the EOP application. And what are the benefits? Well, you receive individualized advising and counselors. You receive a mentor programs. Also transitional programs. We offer for some of our EOP students a summer program before your first semester as a college student. Also grants and financial aid support, and a lot of resources and leadership opportunities. We also have a great Guardian Scholar program, foster youth, unaccompanied homeless youth, under legal guardianship. This program's for you and offers you a lot of support. Special resource areas, identity centers, we offer quite a lot at our different CSU campuses. Excuse me. For EOP, if you're interested, we will ask you for some essay questions. Here are some tips for those too. Be genuine and think of it as a small interview. We want to hear from you and who you are, what inspires you to achieve your goals and your dreams. Don't be too brief with your responses. Type them out ahead of time. Make sure you review it. Make sure your grammar is correct. Have other people look at it before you submit it. There are no right or wrong answers to these questions. But to be part of our Educational Opportunity Program at any of the 23 campuses, we will ask you these questions. And we also have a section for a letter of recommendations that you will need from your counselors or teachers. This is only required, these essays and the letters of recommendation, only required if you're applying into the EOP program. I did want to touch on our transfer admission requirements as well. We may have some transfer students in the audience, or if you're not planning to enroll at the California State University campuses right out of high school, transfer admission is a wonderful option. It is a cheaper option as well, to be frank. The tuition costs at our CSU campuses are about $8,000 a year, more or less. That is the basic state fee as well as campus fees. Transferring in from a community college can be a lot cheaper in the long run in paying those fees upfront to the community college. So if you are interested in this route, please know that you do need to complete 60 transferable units. That's like 2 years of community college work. So if you complete 2 years of community college work, you've been full-time there, you have a minimum of a 2.0 in those courses, no longer looking at your high school record, but community college courses. Hopefully you have higher than that, but a minimum of a 2.0. And you've completed general education courses, including these 4 that we list on this screen, then and you're at the community college, then we advise you to apply to our campuses at that time. You will do the same application for admission. It'll just be 2 years in the future. And while at the community college, you can sign up for associate degree for transfers that our CSU campuses take. It's more of a streamlined path. You have access to the transfer centers at each of those different community colleges you may attend. And we're going to advise you to take general education courses there, but also courses to a particular major or program that you may eventually be interested in. Additionally, if you choose to go the transfer path, we have a brand new contracted program for you that you can sign up for after you graduate from high school. So this is our first year where we started this in August. So the summer after you graduate from high school, if you are choosing not to go to a 4-year institution, not going to the CSU or any other system, you're going to go to the community college, and you're not going to the CSU for financial or personal reasons, then you can sign a contract with a CSU campus at that stage for some programs. Not all majors participate in this, but you can sign a contract at that stage for a particular CSU campus to guarantee you admission 2 years down the road. There will be a set number of classes. You still need 60 units, so 2 years of coursework, but it will lay out for you all the classes you actually need in order to take those to then achieve the transfer after 2 years. So that is the Transfer Success Pathway program, and it's only available in the summer after you graduate from high school. At this stage, I'd like to answer some Q&A if you have any questions that have come up. So any questions whatsoever, please put them in the chat and we can answer them. So just scrolling through some here, I can see that, let's see, questions about school type. So let's say that you are on a quarter system, or even more complicated can be a trimester system. We have different ways for you to enter in your courses as either a quarter or a trimester or a full year. And it will actually ask you as you're typing in your classes, what is that length of time? Is it a quarter? Is it a year, etc.? We have a great guide, the application guide, that will walk you through this step by step. So please check that out if you're in that situation and you're unsure how to answer that question and enter in all of your grades. But we see that with some schools. You're on a trimester system. Usually you're doing 2 semesters in the 3-semester trimester system per year, and it still may be a fall and spring entry. We have other trimester schools that you're taking the same course for all 3 trimesters. And there's a way you can enter that in as a summer course too, but you're indicating that it's trimester, so you're using that field for that last semester. So our application guide is available online, again, through Cal State website, and we definitely do encourage you to check that out. If you can't decide on a major, so I know seniors, this is a stressful time because all of a sudden October is here and November is right around the corner, and our deadline for applying to college is quickly approaching, and everybody's asking you what you want to do for the rest of your life. So we as admissions officers understand that, and we still have an undeclared option or undecided. So there are options to not choose a major and to apply as an undecided student. Does that give you a benefit in the admissions pool? No, it doesn't. So it's not an advantage to get into the campuses. It's simply we're asking you, if you're not sure what program you want to apply to, you can still be undeclared or undecided. Great question. I always advise and tell students, if you're 50% sure it's something you want to do, then you should declare that program. Let's say that you're really interested in women's studies. You're not 100% sure, but you're really leaning towards that direction, I would encourage you to list women's studies on the application for admission. But that being said, you can still be undeclared, and it's definitely not a detriment to you. Let's see. So our essays required, no, just part of EOP. And that is in the third quadrant there, the EOP application. Also, I will tell you this, that if you submit the application on time by November 30th, and then you want to apply for EOP, or the Educational Opportunity Program, you may still do so. We ideally want that part of our application completed by November 30th as well. So we have all of that data collected for you. But if you are unsure and you are putting it off or what have you, you can still do that in December. You will want to check, however, with each individual campus that you've applied to for a specific deadline. So at SDSU, we would have a deadline in January. But we, again, encourage you to do your EOP application at the same time. Good question here about AP scores. No. The question is, should I add my AP exam scores if I have below a passing grade, below a 3? And no, you don't need to do that. As seniors, we're really looking at your AP exam scores that you've already completed as a junior or even as a sophomore. So that is a big point where you can enter it in as college work, and you also can enter in, let's say you've taken a summer class at a community college. There's a way you can enter those in there as well. And so those are great things to have. If you have passing scores on AP, or if you've completed college work, yes, we do want you to enter those in. If you had a score of a 1 or 2 on the AP exam, then no, you don't need to enter that in. A good question about changing schools, maybe changing from a quarter to a semester system. You are entering in the school based on the grade level and the grade year. So let's say you're entering in your school that recognizes your school in 9th grade. You're going to be entering in all of your classes as, say, a quarter school. And then in 10th grade, you're going to need to enter it just for those classes, maybe on the semester or trimester system, whatever you've changed to. Yes, so questions regarding entering in classes if you've changed and switched between a quarter and a semester system. Okay, we are almost at time, so I want to encourage you, any last questions that we have. Which CSU has the best program for business marketing majors? That's a great question. I am biased, of course, because San Diego State, we've got a great, our Fowler College of Business. We've been around for 60 years. But business is great no matter where you go. And a lot of CSUs have top programs. So I would look at, and the benefit of our business programs too is a lot of us have huge networks in the area, in the city in which we're located. So you can't go wrong studying business at a CSU campus.
All right, we are about halfway through, so I'm going to go ahead and segue here from the CSUs in San Diego State over to the UC system. And if our CSU colleagues wouldn't mind staying just a minute or two to type some questions, some answers into the chat, but then they'll be going ahead and taking off. So if you do have a question for CSU, go ahead and put it in the Q&A right now, because they're just going to stay a few minutes for questions that are typed, and we will transition into UCs. So the University of California is another public university system, and we, instead of having 2 in San Diego County, we only have 1 here. We have UC San Diego, and I'm really pleased to have Marissa here from the Office of Admissions at UCSD, and she's going to be telling you a little bit about the UCs. So again, Marissa, I will go ahead, and if I see anything in the Q&A that I can't answer, I might ask you to address it out loud, if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I know it is nighttime, so I appreciate you all being here today. what I think I'm going to do, since it's just one of me from the UC system, is that I will kind of stop close to 7:20, 7:25, and then check the chat, kind of like how Matthew just did right now, and address anything that's in the chat at that time. So throughout the presentation, if anything comes up that you have questions on that I'm not able to address through the presentation, feel free to just throw it in the chat, and then I'll get to it towards the end. But I am going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. So let's go ahead and go from here. Okay. Are you guys, let me actually, sorry. Okay, are you able to see that, or that full screen?
Not yet. We're still seeing the next slide over on the
okay.
right.
Sorry, let me share. Sorry, let me stop sharing screen for just a second. Okay.
Maybe display settings?
Yeah, let me stop sharing for just 1 second,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna share screen again, and I'm gonna pull. Oh yeah. Okay. All right, this should be it. Now, are you guys able to see that?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go ahead and get started with presenting yourself for the UC application. So all right. So in our application, I am going to talk about a lot of the same things that we already mentioned with the CSU. So there are 9 UCs that a student can apply to. So we're going to go ahead and just jump straight into the application, how it looks right now, just for the sake of time. But we are going to kind of go step by step through what we see. So on the right-hand side of this slide, we can see a breakdown of what the application looks like. So these are going to be all the sections that a student has to complete as they're going through the UC application. Once a student completes a section, then you can see on the right side next to UC values, it has a little check mark next to it. That means that the application section has been completed. So you want all of those sections to have little check marks next to it to show that the application is completed. Now, with the About You section, we are going to kind of come back to that. But one thing that we want to mention right here is about choosing our campus. So like I mentioned, there are 9 UCs, and there is one application link for all of the UCs. We're not on the Common App or anything like that. So you are just going to submit one application, and then a copy will be sent to all of the UCs that you mark in this map right here. So we will all get the same copy. And I will put the link for the UC application in the chat at the end. But what we're going to see right now is that our application is currently open for all of the UCs. They opened in August. Students can start submitting in October, and you have until November 30th to submit that application. And that is a hard deadline. So we encourage students not to wait until 11:59 on November 30th to hit that submit button. So just make sure that you are submitting it by the time, by the deadline. We like to encourage students to submit it before Thanksgiving, just so that they can enjoy their holiday. But our first year students will hear back by the end of March, and our transfer students hear back by the end of April. And then you have until May 1st across the nation to accept your offer for a school that you have been admitted to, that you want to go to for the upcoming fall. So this is what our timeline looks like for our current seniors, and how the application is going to look. Now, before we get started, some things that you are going to want to have to just make your life easier is you want to consider your majors. And we'll talk about majors in a second and how that looks on the application. But it's a good idea to kind of familiarize yourself with the different majors that all of the UCs offer. We all offer a variety of majors, but some UCs are going to have other majors that other UCs might not have. So keep that in mind. Most UCs will ask you to put at least 2, so your first and second choice major, in the application. You also want to get an unofficial copy of your transcript. And this is because you do want to report all of your grades and coursework exactly how it shows on your transcript. Because once a student gets admitted, and if they do choose to go to the UC that they've been admitted to, then we will ask for an official transcript, and you want to make sure that those courses and grades are identical to what you put on the application. So really good idea to go based off of that. Not so great of an idea to go just based off of your memory of what you got in 9th grade, based off your memory 4 years ago. And then we do have a writing component for the UCs. So our personal insight questions, which we will talk about. So our personal insight questions are 8 prompts, and you answer only 4, but we greatly encourage students to write these prompts beforehand and to not write them while they are on the application, because if the system times out, it will not automatically save. So we encourage students to write them on something like a Google Doc or Microsoft Word sheet, and then have it copy and paste over. Can you guys still see my slide? Carla, did anything happen to it?
It's just before you start, be prepared.
Okay, cool. Sorry, my other screen did something weird. So,
Okay.
And then we do want to make sure that students are still creating the outline for their activities that they have and any awards that they've won. So definitely making sure that for the writing components, so extracurriculars as well as a PIQ, that we're starting beforehand so that we are not rushing to complete it while we're doing the application. Now, for some things that we want to consider for the importance of accuracy. So you are signing a legal document with your application saying that everything that you are reporting is legal, and that you are giving us accurate information. So that is why we ask that students get this information beforehand, just so that they are accurately reporting their grades and the coursework taken. So just keep that in mind. You are agreeing that everything that you are saying is your own words, and these are all your own legal document that you're signing to agree to that. So before you start, one thing on the application as well is when you create the application link, it will give you at the bottom, before you even sign in, all of these links that are listed right here. So if you're not sure about certain requirements, like what A through G requirements are or what the GPA minimum is, you can take yourself to the bottom of this page, and it's a hyperlink that will take you to the UC requirements. So that's just something, if you're not sure, you want to check on some of the requirements, then you can take a look at that on the application itself. Now, the way that the UC systems review the applications is through a holistic review approach. So that means we look at a number of different factors in a number of different tiers. So the first tier is going to be our minimum requirement. That is going to be that a student has completed A through G subject courses and has a 3.0 minimum GPA for the grades of 10th and 11th grade. So the weighted GPA of a 3.0. Those are going to be our minimum requirements. Your A through G courses can be found on our website. It's going to be things like history, math, English, science. So there are a corresponding amount of years a student needs to take, and you do need to receive a C or better for those corresponding amount of years. And then, of course, like I mentioned, a 3.0 GPA across the board for all the UCs is what makes you eligible for your college GPA. So that's where we start with our minimum eligibility requirements. And then the next thing, is the next tier that we look at is going to be that holistic review. So that means that we are looking at a number of other factors aside from just what we mentioned before, which is A through G and GPA. So we're going to look at things like the applicant pool as a whole, who is applying to any of the UCs that you're applying to. We're looking at extracurriculars. Has a student been involved in community service, leadership opportunities, sports, club, work, anything like that? So there is an activity section where students can put up to 20 awards, extracurricular, community service, anything they've been part of. Being part of a CalSOAP is an educational opportunity that you can put as an activity. So please, if you would like to do that, you are more than welcome and encouraged to do so in your application. We're also going to look at academic factors like, has a student taken advantage of things like AP classes, honors classes, community college classes, and if they have, when have they taken advantage of that, and how have they done in those classes? So we are going to look at those academic factors as well in terms of the holistic review. We're also going to look at context to the student itself. So that means looking at the opportunities that your school provides. So we're not going to compare a student who has 5 AP classes, but their school offered 6, and compare them to a student who has 10 AP classes, but their school offered 20, because Everyone's school offers different opportunities. So we're not looking at other schools, we're looking at your school and your opportunities that were provided to you. So make sure you really address those factors in your application, utilizing additional comments or personal insight questions to address, if your school limited how many AP classes you could take sophomore year, or if it didn't fit in your schedule. Those are the kind of things you want to utilize, especially the additional comment section for. And then of course, finally, the personal insight question. So we do not conduct interviews at any of the UCs. The nice thing that we like to say is our personal insight questions are kind of like interviews on paper. So you do want to utilize these opportunities for personal insight questions to give us, the readers at all of the UCs, more context to you as an individual, you as a student, in ways that we might not see otherwise just by looking at your grades in your coursework. So this is kind of all of the different factors that we look at. Of course, every UC is going to be a little bit different. So if there's specifics on that, we highly encourage you to reach out to the specific UC that you're interested in applying to get a little bit more information on their review process. But this is kind of the general overview of how we, as a UC system, review applications. Now, like I said, we do have our comprehensive review. So that means that we're looking at your academic achievements, any personal school context, special talent, life challenges, and special circumstances. So really, that would be where you would write about this in your personal insight questions or additional comments, especially if there was something like a grade or a course that you want to address that we might not know otherwise unless you write about it in the additional comments or personal insight questions. So just keeping that in mind is really important as you are working through the application. Now, getting into the specifics of the application, you will need to first go to the link and create an account. One thing that I do want to note for students is that you should not be using your high school email if your school is giving you an email to create this account, because that email typically tends to be deleted after you graduate and you still want access to this account. So please make sure that you're using a personal and professional email to create this account. And then in regards to your passwords, I think a good rule of thumb is to have it somewhere that you might be able to find, but it's not super easy for anyone to find, but have your information somewhere that you can go back if you forget the password, because you're going to be creating your senior year a lot of like accounts for all of your applications, financial aid application, your student application after you apply. So make sure that you're keeping track of all of your usernames and passwords for all of these different accounts that you're going to create and manage throughout your senior year. So just keep that in mind. Now, for the application itself, this is going to be one of the first things that you see. This is a snapshot of last year's because it's 2023, but you will all be, if you're a senior right now and you're applying for the fall quarter of 2024. So anyone who is in high school right now will be applying as a freshman, and anyone who is in community college or any type of college coursework who has already graduated high school would be applying as a transfer student. So even if you have taken community college coursework as a high school student, you will still be applying as a first-year student, because you do not become a transfer student until you officially graduate high school and then start taking community college courses. So any high school student will be applying as a first-year student. Now, like I said, we'll go through navigating. On the right-hand side, you can see what the application as a whole looks like. So we're going to go through navigating all of the different sections on the application and how to best do so and best practices. Like I mentioned, you are going to make sure that there is a check mark next to every single one before that system lets you submit. So just keep that in mind. You can kind of go like jump around though. You doesn't need to be in order. So if you want to come back to a section later and fill out the information, then totally fine. You're more than welcome to do so. So one thing that you will put is going to be, you will have to give us your name that shows on official and legal documents, including your transcript, because we will need to be matching official transcripts if a student gets admitted to the name that's on their transcript. But if you go by a different name, there is a section where you can put your preferred name, and that's what will show up on all of your like information. So your student account, that kind of stuff. But for legal and transcript reasons, we will need the name as it appears on any birth certificate as well as transcripts in high school. So just keep that in mind. And then one thing that we will note in the About You section as well is going to be asking about citizenship and residency. So for the UC systems, our residency is going to determine in-state versus out-of-state tuition as well as financial aid. We do have a specific department that's going to be our resident deputy, and they're the folks who address any questions or any concerns about if a student is going to be considered in-state or out-of-state for residency. But the About You section will ask your country of citizenship. It'll ask you a couple more questions about residency, just so that they can get a better understanding. And then by the time you attend a UC, will you have graduated from a California high school? So that is one question that's going to help the resident deputies determine if a student is in-state or out-of-state. And then for non-residents, so students who do not claim California residency, again, it will ask you your country of citizenship and then your legal citizenship status by the date you submit the application, and then if you have an ITIN. So these are questions that, like I said, are used for residency purposes, but if you have any specific questions, please reach out to the resident deputy at any of the specific UCs that you're interested in applying to, because they're going to be the ones that have the better kind of understanding on how they assess residency for tuition purposes. Now, the last section about the About You section is going to be asking about annual household income. So it will ask you for the permanent home address. It will also ask you for the parent income for high school students. So the annual income and how many people live in this house. Now, it's important to note that this is not the financial aid application by any means, but this is the link, or sorry, this is the section in the application that determines if a student is eligible for the fee waiver. So the universities ourselves do not hand out fee waivers, so we are not responsible for the fee waiver. That is done through the application itself, and it is done with this section of the application. So if the system determines that you are eligible for a fee waiver, then it will automatically apply to your application. At the beginning of this slideshow, we saw a section of the application that had a map of California. If you are eligible for the fee waiver, once you get to that slide, it will tell you that you have received the fee waiver. And then when you click a UC to add to your application, it will show as $0 instead of $80. And it will do that for the first 4 UCs that you apply to if you receive the fee waiver. Once you hit that 5th UC, even if you receive the fee waiver, it's going to start adding $80. So just keep that in mind. Same thing from the CSU. If you receive the fee waiver, it's not going to be any different if you apply financially to 1 UC versus 4. It will still be $0. So encourage all students who do receive the fee waiver to still submit their application to 4, just because it will make no difference in the cost of the application. So like I said, it will ask you in that section, it will ask you your household income, your household size, and then if you would like, you can also provide your parents' household information here. So it'll ask you your parents' relation to you as well as their highest level of education. So this is going to be one of the last sections on the About You section. So the actual last section, though, is going to be the legal state of residency. And that just says, would you like to be evaluated for California residency for tuition purposes? So you can see the requirements here listed out 1 through 3. What qualifies a student to be considered for California residency. So evaluate that, see if that's something that you feel you would like to be evaluated for California residency, and then just make your selection. And then based off of your selection, our financial aid and tuition department will determine if you receive California residency or not. So that's going to be the first section, which is About You. Now, after the About You section, it will go into the campus majors and campus selection. So it'll be that map that we saw of California. And again, you will select any of the UCs that you're interested in. So you don't need to do multiple applications for every UC. You just do the one application. And then in that map, you select which copy you would like the application to be sent to. Now, the ones that you select will then show on this campus and majors portion of the application, because each UC will ask you to select either at least one major, and in most cases, the UC will ask you to select two majors, so a first and a second choice major. So you'll see the major. So for example, here we have Santa Barbara. It will tell you when you select a major. So the selected major is your first choice, and then the alternate major is your second choice. And the way that you do that is you will browse either by college or category. So if you browse by college, you'll browse, like you'll click this, you'll do the drop down, and then you will see all of the majors that UC Santa Barbara offer in the College of Letters and Science that you would maybe be considered in. And then you would want to just select one that you're interested in. And once you do that, it will update for your selected major, the major that you have selected. So make sure that if the UC is asking you to select two majors, that you do select two. Another good rule of thumb that we say is, all of the UCs have what they consider either selective or competitive majors. We all differ based off of which ones are our selective or competitive majors. So familiarize yourself with the UC and which one is going to be a selective major. And then if you do have a selective major as your first choice, it's a good idea to consider a non-selective or non-competitive major as your second choice. But if you are interested in those selective majors, definitely making sure that you're indicating that as your first choice major. And then for campus categories and majors, like I said, it will just give you the breakdown of each college. So if you go by either the college, we can see at the top, and then if you want to go by category instead of the college, you can do that. So if you're not sure what major your college falls under, but you know the general idea of the major, you can search it under the category instead if you think that that might be easier to find it. Because a lot of us, for example, at UC San Diego, we have 150 plus majors. We don't expect you all to know which major belongs to which academic school. So if you want to search by category, totally fine. You can find it that way as well. And then for our campus and major alternative, this is what it will look like. So for example, if you are interested in engineering, computer science, we saw that if a student found that major here and the drop down, and then they drop down computer and engineering and computer science, this is what would show up for the university. So these are all the majors that a university, for example, Santa Barbara, would offer. So if you wanted it as your major, you would just click major. But if you'd already clicked your first major choice and this was going to be your second, you would just click alternate major. And then it would appear as either whichever one you selected on your campus selection overall in your application. Now, something that is specific to UC San Diego only, but will show up in the application if you do put UC San Diego, is our college ranking system. So at UC San Diego, we have 8 different colleges. These have nothing to do with your major. They also have nothing to do with admissions. So what these are 8 different communities that we have on campus that a student will be put into to help them complete general education requirements, complete their just graduating overall. If they need to transfer AP credit, these are the advisors that they will be working with. So each college is based off of a different philosophy, and their general education requirements for that college is tailored around the philosophy that that college stands for. So I bring this up because if you do put UC San Diego in your UC application, it will prompt you to rank the colleges 1 through 8, 1 being my favorite, 8 being not my favorite. Again, this is not going to impact admissions, but after you select your majors for UC San Diego, you will also have to do this. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes students get very confused when they first see that. If you have any questions specifically about UC San Diego's college system and want a more depth and explanation, please feel free to reach out to our Office of Admissions, and we are more than happy to answer any questions. But just note, this will only show up if you put UC San Diego on the application.
Can I ask you a quick question? There's one in the chat because it's kind of about choosing a major. It's
Yeah.
kind of about like, does UC admit by major or not is basically what they're asking. They're saying, do UC admissions take into account the classes you take in high school and how much they relate to the major you are applying for when deciding to accept you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I can't speak for the admissions process really in specifics to all the UCs, but in terms of the UCs overall, what we're going to be looking at is that a student has completed A through G courses, that they have been completing the minimum 3.0. And then we are going to be looking at academic rigor. So for example, if you're interested in a biology major and you take AP biology, that's going to be academic rigor. So across the board, as a general statement, those are academic wise, those are the kind of things that we're looking for. Now, like I said, each UC has different selective and competitive majors, but biology and engineering across the board are pretty much all going to be selective or competitive. So in that certain situation, it's not a requirement to take AP classes. It's not a requirement to take community college or do anything like that. But if you are interested in those selective majors, then it definitely doesn't hurt to try and show your interest in that selective major by taking academically rigorous courses that apply to that major. So again, it's not a requirement, but it is going to be an added value to your application specific to that. Now, if you take other AP classes that are not relevant to the major, that's still going to be good and add value to your application because it shows academic rigor. But what you're going to want to see is what UC has, which selective majors, and then kind of see how you can maybe take some courses that show your continued interest in academic rigor that are going to be applicable to those majors. So I hope I answered that question for that. But if not, feel free to add more in the chat. I am more than happy to answer those questions. We are going to move on to the next section after you choose the college and the major, which is going to be inputting your courses. Now, when you input your courses, the first thing that you have the option to do is input any 7th or 8th grade courses that are for math or language other than English. Now, the way that you know that you're going to input those courses is if they show up on your high school transcript. So if your high school is giving you credit for courses taken in middle school, then it will show up on your high school transcript and you should put that on your UC application. So again, it's only going to be relevant to a math or language other than English course. So we can see, for example, in this one, any student who has taken these math courses in 7th or 8th grade, explaining if they took it for the full year or less than a year. And then, of course, you will put the grade that you received, and then you will be getting credit for that going towards your A through G courses. So the same for language other than English. Now, if you don't have 7th or 8th grade courses, totally fine. You'll just say, I don't have any, and it'll move you on to the next section. This is only for students who do have it on their high school transcript. But once you get to the next section, we'll be entering in your high school courses. So what you're going to want to do is search for your high school. So you'll type in your high school name or the city, and then you'll search, and then you'll make sure that you are clicking the right school, because it will auto-populate the courses that your school has sent us as a UC. So it'll make your life easier. So if you put the wrong school, then the wrong classes are going to show up. So just make sure that you're checking the city is in the right city that you go to, because some schools have the same name across multiple cities. But then what it will take you to is kind of you explaining to us if it was if a school, for example, that was International Baccalaureate, you would note that you do not have to select these. This is only if it applies to your school. If it applies to your school, most likely you know about it. If none of these sound familiar, it's probably not applicable to your school. But you will tell us when you attended that school. So if you attended 2 high schools, this is where you would kind of let us know that you only went to a school for one portion, and then you'll add another high school and say the portion that you went to for that school. You'll let us know the grading system. And then of course the term type for the school. So if it was a full year, semester, quarter, something like that. And then is this the school that you will graduate from? Because again, if you go to more than 2 high schools, you will need to tell us the school that you plan on graduating from. Now, after you get to inputting your high schools, this is where you're going to put your academic history. So from 9th through 11th grade, you will have your grades. So what you're going to do is, like I said, every school sends us their specific courses, A through G courses. So it should auto-populate in your UC application. If it doesn't auto-populate, chances are that it is most likely not an A through G course. So for example, you will not see PE on this list because PE does not count as an A through G course. But if there is a course that you think should be populated on this list, but it is not, you can check with your counselor. They'll tell you if it's A through G. And if it is, at the very bottom right here, there's a little button that says, I do not see my course. You can click that and manually input it. But when you do the drop down to it, it will take you. So for example, this is 11th grade history and social science. It will drop down and it will tell you every history class that's A through G that's available at your school. So make sure you are clicking the correct one for 11th grade, because it's not going to just take the 11th grade history. It's going to give you all the history options from 9th through 12th grade at your school. So make sure you're just keeping track of the year that you're putting the information in. After you click the selection for the appropriate year. So right now we're in 11th grade English, for example. You will have a drop down to do, for example, if it's semester, a first and a second grade for semester 1 and 2. And then it will also auto populate if it is AP or not. So make sure if you are taking English language and composition, and it's an AP, you're clicking AP English and language and composition, because there might also be an option for just English language and composition. So make sure if you are taking the AP one that you're clicking that as well. And then if you do have to input your own course because it is not showing up, like I said, there's that button right there. And then you will have to determine to your best guess what that course falls under, A through G. And you'll put the course name, if it's honors IB or something like that, and then the grade that you received. So that is how you input high school coursework. If you have taken college coursework, you do have the option and should be putting that in your application as well. Now, not all students have taken community college coursework, and that's totally fine. It is not a requirement. If that's the case, you'll just mark that I don't have any college coursework, and it'll take you to the next section. But if you do have community college coursework, it's going to be very similar to high school coursework. So what you're going to do, same thing, is you're going to find your college, kind of the same way you did your high school. You're going to put, if it's in California, enter the city name and search for it. Make sure you're clicking the right community college for the right city. And then afterwards, it will have you add the courses, and then it will auto populate as well. In this situation, it's going to be a little bit lengthier than the A through G's, because there are a lot of different courses that you can take in college. So you'll find the course that you took and then input the grade as well. So it looks very similar to high school. It's just your college courses instead. Now, after you put in your high school and community college coursework, if you have it, it will ask for any academic additional comments. This is totally optional, but this is where you're going to put something like, if your school limits how many AP classes you can take sophomore year or throughout all of high school, this is where you would want to put something like, I wanted to take 5 AP classes junior year, but I could only take 3. If your school switched from like different, COVID switched your school's grading system, or COVID, or even not COVID, your school switched the way that the terms were. This is how you're going to explain that. So in the additional comments section, because this is how we understand as a reader something that we might not understand if we're looking at your grades and your coursework at face value. So anything you think is maybe something that we will see in the application that we don't understand, this is how you better explain it through the additional comment section. And this is for academics only. There is another option at the very end of the application for just overall additional comments. This is specific to academics. Now, after that, it does, question.
Yeah, they're saying how or where would they put a summer AP class taken through UC Scout? Is that an online program?
Yes. So the way that you would do that is, let me see if it shows here. Okay, so in this section right here, there's an option to put like summer courses. So after each grading level, it says you want to take or put summer courses, and then you will input that. So if it shows up, which it probably will not show up, you will have to input it manually. So for that, I would say that you would definitely put it as college coursework. So here, and then it might not show up automatically as a college coursework. So you might have to manually input that. And so you would just do that the same way. When it comes to college coursework, you will have to kind of guess if it falls under what A through G categories. So that's your best guess based off of the UC Scout one. And then you'll also put your grade that you received. But there is an option to click that this is a summer course, or like when you're taking it during the summer. So put it for the summer that you've taken it in, if it's like 9th grade summer course. And then if it doesn't show up, which I feel the chances are it probably won't show up, then you'll have to manually input that into your college coursework section.
Can I ask you one more quick one?
Yeah.
Okay, so this student is in 12th grade now, and they've
Okay.
been at the high school all 4 years, except it looks like the second semester of 9th grade, they were at
Okay.
a different school. So it looks like the current school was first semester freshman year, then it was a different school second semester freshman year, but then the next 3 years, sophomore, junior, senior, it sounds like they were back to the original school. And then they ask, is it tricky to enter the courses?
So not tricky, but what you would do is you would, let me go back to, okay, so in this section, for your start date and your end date, you're going to start freshman year, fall semester, and your end date, if this is the one you're graduating from, will be, you know, spring of 2024. And then you will add another high school and just do your start date was like January of your freshman year, and then your end date was probably like June of your freshman year. So you'll put that. And then when you input your grades for 9th grade, you will put, let's say your first high school was Balboa, right? And you went to Balboa for that first semester, 9th grade, and then a different high school, you went to like Claremont. And then afterwards you went to Balboa for the rest of it. For 9th grade Balboa, you will put your grades you received first semester. And then for second semester, because it's semester, you'll just put no, because you don't have grades from them. And then for this Claremont, the one you took for only one semester, 9th grade, you'll put no for all of the first semester grades, and then your grades for second semester, because that's when you went to that school. And then moving forward, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, you'll just put it's all from Balboa, and then you'll just put it in like that, the way that it shows up on your transcript. So I know it can seem a little tricky. You're allowed to put no, like even if your school is semester, you can say no, like I didn't receive a grade, because if you didn't receive a grade, then that's okay. And that happens. Plenty of classes only are 1 semester long, or students switch in the middle of the semester. So that's totally fine. So hopefully that answered your question, but if not, feel free to put it back in the chat if more you have more questions about that. But we'll go ahead and go back to one thing I do want to note here is that we no longer accept any of the UC's SAT or ACT for admissions purposes. So if you do choose to take the exam, totally up to you. You still can put it in the application, but it will be hidden from all readers as we're reviewing the application. If you do choose to take the exam and you get admitted to a UC, you can use the exam for placement purposes like math or English placement as a student at your UC. But for admission purposes, we will not see it as we're reviewing the application. We only see it after a student's admitted. But if a student is applying as an international student, they will need to make sure that they're meeting English language proficiency. So there's a number of ways that they can do that. And one of them is going to be through taking the English proficiency exam, as well as meeting certain English courses is another way, or taking AP English exams. So definitely this is very applicable for any students applying as an international student that needs to make sure that they're meeting English proficiency. Now, then one of the final sections in the UC application is going to be the awards and activities. So you do have 20 spaces to add any awards or activities. You can see the drop down of the options that we have here. So you can either add an award, an educational prep program, which CalSOAP counts as, an extracurricular activity, other coursework. So if there was a course that you took that doesn't fall under A through G courses that you want us to know, or maybe you yourself just took like a coding class for fun and it wasn't through your high school, you didn't really get a grade, but you want us to know that you're trying to, let's say you're majoring in computer science, though that's where you would put that, would be through additional coursework, volunteer, community service, and work experience. So definitely, if you are someone who has a job in high school, please indicate that on your application. It definitely counts as an extracurricular activity. So there is a whole section dedicated to work experience if you have that. So please let us know that if that's the case. But again, you have up to 20 spaces to utilize this section to let us know anything else that you've done outside of school for extracurriculars. And then you do have the option to, like I said, put any academic educational program. So this is a list of all of just some of the programs that we have. If you feel like there's a program that is an educational program that's not listed here, you can still mark it as an educational program and put it as other. But here are some of the big ones. Of course, you can see CalSOAP is on there. So definitely everyone should be putting CalSOAP on their application if they are a part of that program. And then right after the activities section, you will have the scholarship section. So your UC application does act as a scholarship application as well. So the way that you will do that is you will click up to 20 that you want to be considered for. So each of these have a drop down. For example, career plans. Let's say you're interested in biology. If you drop down career plans, it will say, I want to be I want to be considered for a scholarship for students in biology. And then all of the 20 selections that you choose will be sent to our scholarship departments through all of the UCs. And then at that point, we already have basically your application, because we have your grades, we have your courses, we have your essays, activities. So we don't need any additional information at that time. If they do need additional information, they will reach out to your email, which is why it's very important to check your email and student account after you apply. But typically we don't need more information. And if you get awarded that scholarship, it will show in your financial aid application if you are admitted once you receive your financial aid package. So just keep that in mind. Please click all up to 20, because if you don't, then it's just spots that you could have clicked, and it's definitely a part of the application. So please click all the way up to 20 in your scholarship consideration. And then the final component of our application is our personal insight question. So this is our writing component. We have 8 prompts. All of the UCs have the same prompts. Every student is allowed to answer only 4 and only 4. Please do not think the additional comments is a way to sneak in like a 5th PIQ. So just keep that in mind. It's only 350 words, which I know it does not sound like a lot, because it isn't, but that doesn't necessarily make it easy, because you are telling us kind of your life stories here. So you have a lot of information. Everyone, I'm sure, has a really great and in-depth story they want to tell us, but 350 words is not a lot of space. So you definitely want to make sure you're writing it beforehand, editing it, getting folks to look over it and tell you what they think so you can make those changes, and definitely putting it in something like a Google Doc so you can copy and paste over campuses. You can really consider this an interview on paper. So respond to your PIQs the way that you would respond to an interview that you would in person, meaning you don't need to get too caught up in trying to create like a really cool attention grabber or, set the scene or something like that. What we're mostly interested in is you answering the prompt so we can get a better understanding of who you are as an individual. One thing I want to note here, as well as the additional comments, is because you only submit one application for all of the UCs, what happens is a copy of that application gets sent to every UC you tell it to go to. So we all get the same copy of your grades, extracurriculars, and your PIQs. And I bring this up because I have seen this before. I would encourage you not to put something like, I really want to go to UCLA's biology program because all of the UCs you're applying to are going to see that. So keep that in mind when you are writing your personal insights as well as your additional comments. And then these are going to be your prompts. Like I said, there are 8 prompts. You students can only choose 4, but there's no better prompt than the other. Just answer the one that you feel most connected with and that you can share the most information to us with. But what you'll do is when you're ready, you'll click that answer button, and then a little text box will pop up. You'll most likely copy and paste from your Google Doc and then hit save. And you'll do that for all 4 right when you're ready to hit that submit button. And then, like I said, there is one last additional comment at the end of the application. So this is where you would put anything overall that you felt the application you need to know about for the application that we might not have known about. Again, this is not a way to put a 5th PIQ. This is very informal, just a way to say, this is something I want you to know about myself, but I didn't want to dedicate a whole PIQ to it. So I'm going to write about it here. And then you're done. So that's the whole application in a nutshell. Like I said, here's everything we just went through. You do want to make sure there's a check mark next to it. It will not let you submit until you have a check mark next to everything. So we can see right here, the student can't submit because there's something wrong with their academic history that's preventing them from having the check mark. So what they can do is that they will click on the academic history and it will show you this little text that says, this is what you're missing. So you'll put the continue working. It'll take you exactly to the section of the application that is missing something. So you can address that before you hit that submit button. So that's kind of what that will do. And it will prevent you from hitting submit until everything is complete. Now, one last thing that I want to note is that sometimes students do take AP classes to fulfill certain requirements, like language other than English. So they don't necessarily take 2 full years.
Marissa, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but you are frozen for us. You might want to stop sharing screen for a second or try to log out and log back in. Might be having a connectivity issue. All right, folks, I'm going to give her a minute. I know it's about 7:30, but I'm just going to give her one more minute to see if she can log back in and just finish up and try to answer any questions that aren't answered yet. If she's not able to reconnect, then I will go ahead and end the webinar. But let me just give her a couple of minutes. Oh, she is back in.
So sorry, let me.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and try to share screen again?
Yes, let me go back to sharing my screen one last time. We're almost done here.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys can see the normal screen, right? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So so that's where you would go. You just let the screen know that you're okay with moving forward with that missing coursework. And then at the end, again, this is where you would pay any fees. So if you qualified for the fee waiver, it would note here. It shows you this after all of the sections have a check mark next to it. So when you're ready to submit, it will show you this here. And then if you do have the fee waiver and you've only applied to like 2, it will give you the option to like apply for more because you again get 4 free UCs if you do have the fee waiver available to you. And then you will get a confirmation. I always tell students it's a good idea to take a picture of this and keep this for your own benefit in case something ever happens, but you will also get an email letting you know that we have received your applications. And the latest that a student hears back as a first-year student from any of the UCs is going to be the end of March. So this basically is your electronic signature certifying that everything you said is correct and that you agree that everything is correct. So you will just want to make sure that you click that so that acts as your electronic signature. And then if you would like to make any changes to your application, certain things can be made changes to, which you can see right here as updates. Really, once you hit that submit button, that is the official submission. So only a number of a few things can be made changes, and that's just going to be more logistical things. So please make sure that you are making sure you complete the application in its entirety before you hit submit, because you're not really going to have the chance to go back and make major changes after you hit that submit button. And then here is going to be our contact information. Sometimes there are specific things that only the UC application themselves can answer. So you're definitely gonna want to have their contact information, because sometimes the university itself, we can't answer that because it's on the application center. So keep that in mind. You can email them, live chat them, or give them a phone call. But if it's something specific to requirements, definitely feel free to reach out to the UC specifically that you're interested in or have a question for. So to be cognizant of time, I am going to stop sharing and I am going to take a look at the Q&A.
There is one that I couldn't answer. The student was asking if my school transcript includes 1.5 credits for classes I took both semesters and 3.0 credits for classes I was only able to take one semester. They're basically asking, do they need to list their school twice, like with 2 different term systems?
If my school...
I'm not sure. And I also asked them to email me because I might need more clarity on the question, but I think that's what they're saying.
I think I need a little bit more clarity on the question too, because for high school courses, we are typically not asking students to input the amount of credits. So it should automatically show up how many credits the student is like eligible for that class, just because the schools send us their profile as well as the classes that they offer. So credit wise, that should honestly, the school should kind of take care of that and send us that. So if it auto populates in the UC application, then that's like good. But for like if it's a manually input one, then that's where it gets a little tricky. I might need more clarification on that. So if that student wants to email you and then you want to reach out to me, like forward me that email, that's totally fine too. We can do that and maybe answer it that way, just so I make sure I'm answering it exactly the way the student would want. So yeah, I think, let me just double check. Any other questions? I know we went a little over time, but thank you all for sticking with me and bearing through my technology and Wi-Fi connectivity. But any last minute questions while I'm here that students have about the application, the review process of the UCs, anything like that?
I don't see any more. I think I was able to answer any of the ones that are in there. And so I thank you so much for your time, and good luck to everybody who's applying for all these colleges. And we'll be back with more webinars next month. And Marissa, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Goodbye, everybody. We'll be posting this on calsoapsandiego.org starting tomorrow. So thank you so much.
Bye and good luck to everyone.
Bye.